So Because by the Beatles, this is from Abbey Road, 1969. And to me, this is one of their most beautiful songs they ever wrote. It's John Lennon's song. And it's John, Paul, and George singing the harmonies. Paul takes the high part, and George takes the low part, and John, of course, is doing the lead. And then they triple track that, so there's actually 9 voices on the recording. But apart from the beauty of the melody and the harmonies, just the accompaniment alone is really, really beautiful. And it's just a fantastic progression. Story goes, John was listening to Yoko playing Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven on the piano, and he asked her to, do those chords backwards. And I mean, I'm not even sure if that's exactly what's going on, but that's where the inspiration came from. So it was, and it's got that definite Beethoven classical flavor to it. So I'm going to be teaching it with the capo on the 4th fret with these A minor shapes, okay? But it's also in drop D. So take your capo off, drop your E string down to a D, and put your capo on the 4th fret. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do it. Now, most guys are teaching it with bar chords, and I'm not sure if John played it that way or this way in the studio. I think he probably did use bar chords, but I'm going to be teaching the harpsichord part as well. And if you're using bar chords, I can't do it there because I got the capo, so I'll do it here. We're going to have to get that chord, and that is a really difficult chord to get. Well, it is for me. It's like Dominic Miller type chord, Shape of My Heart. It's just really hard to get. And I think, when people go to play this and they have to hit that chord, they're just going to pack it in because it's just so hard to get that. So the way I'm teaching it with the capo on the 4th, drop D, when you get to that chord, it becomes that, right? Which is super easy to do. So that's like a D chord, down 1, 2 strings. And we're just going up to the B string, all right? And other than that, there's mostly, it's not perfect, but mostly I think it just resonates better and sounds better doing it this way. All right, so let's get into it. So the first chord is A minor, and we're going to start like this. And this is the harpsichord part. The harpsichord and the guitar are virtually identical, except for a few bars where they differ just slightly. So we just arpeggiating that. And we're going to A3 on the way down, back to the D string. Do it twice. Now we're going to hit this chord. A lot of people will say that's a B minor 7 flat 5, but it's not. It's just a B7 flat 5 because there's no third in it, right? But regardless of what it's called, it's just that D shape. We go down and back up to the D string. And now we're going to get a little finger here and hit A3 and then open D. Lift all our fingers off there, right? Now we're going to go to this E chord. Starting on the A string. Now, because we've detuned that low E, we've got to get that note there, that E note. Like I'm just talking, A minor, E, we know that's a C sharp minor, right? But just to keep it logical in relationship to the capo. So we've got the low E and the D string. Now we're going to go here, which is just that F chord, but we're going to get our third finger on E3 and get D3 with our little finger. And and then move our third finger to A3, back to A minor. Now we're going to go to F, and the F is going to be here now, right? And so we're going to hit this. It's an F7. So we're barring here. We got G2 and B4 and E3. B, G, D. Now we move our third finger here to get that A3. And then we go, we're going to slide that seventh down to a sixth. But since we've got the seventh there, that's going to be called an F13. Yeah, beautiful chord. So far we've got so nice. And now we're going to hit this chord, which is a B flat. And in this tuning, we got to get the B flat note up here. We could get it here. You could do it that way, but it's kind of, we kill these upper strings when we do that. And you could get away with it live maybe, but it just didn't sound the greatest. Or you could go, could substitute there with that, right? Really quickly. And, once you get good at that, that'll work too. But what I did in my demo is just barring on the third and getting, that would be the 10th now, I guess. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th with my little finger. And then hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with my middle finger on the A string. Okay, so you can, if you can do that, you don't mind the sound of that, or that, those are easier ways. That looks way harder than it is, right? That's not that bad. And if you don't want to do that, later on, when I go over the guitar part just is the third there instead of the root, right? So you could cop out by doing that, right? No problem. And now we're going to come down here to A1, D2, and G3, and B3, and the harpsichord part kind of goes from the B3 to B2, as well as that open E string. And that is the end of the main section. That repeats quite a bit. So now the guitar part in that section is going to come in on the F, right? So the harpsichord is here. This is the guitar part now. Okay, which is identical to the harpsichord part. Now, when the harpsichord hits that B flat, the guitar is just going to hit the third here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A5, and barring on the third. And it's going to go. So instead of going, hitting that E, we're just going to pull off from 3 to 2 on the B. And we're going to get the middle finger to cover that B2. All right. And that's it for that section. Now, the other part that is a little different in that first section for the guitar is this. So instead of doing that B7 flat 5, we're just going to go, we're just playing A2, open D, and G2. And that's a very subtle difference, but it's definitely there. Now instead of going, hitting the A string like the harpsichord does, we're going to get that low E. And instead of going like the harpsichord, we're going to go the 5th to the root, right? A to D. And then we know this is the same. It's identical, except for that. All right, and now we get to the middle section, and that's going to go like this. And this is the harpsichord part. There's one note difference between the harpsichord and the guitar, actually two, in this entire middle section. So we've got A string and then D string. And then we've got A4, G2. And then we go back down. And then we low E string. All right, and now we're going to go to here. Going to be muting out that A string. D string, G string, B string. And then back. Now, we get little finger on A3, and then open D. That's beautiful sound there. And then we go. So we're going to get B3 for that E7 chord. All right. And the guitar there is almost exactly the same. It goes. Okay, so now he hits the B note there instead of A. Now, harmonically, that doesn't make much sense, but in context, it just seems to work. Now here, exactly the same, except instead of hitting the actual 7th on that E7 chord, he's hitting the 5th, the B. So, and that is it. That's the entire song, both parts. So it probably makes more sense when you look at the tab, all those little variations. And if you're going to play this, you're probably going to do a combination of both parts. That part is probably more prominent than you can choose whatever parts you want to play and they're all going to work. And for me, other than that, which you can easily avoid by just hitting that 3rd there, it's a lot easier to play with the Capo in drop D. So anyways, that's it. Like I say, I hope you get something out of it, and we'll talk to you next time.